Welcome everybody. Thank you for the exploded chat right at the beginning of the webinar. Before we do the presentation, let me just quickly show some housekeeping slides. The webinar is recorded and it will be available on our website and on our YouTube channel as well. The presentation, or might say it is a discussion, even will be around 45 minutes long. Then we will have some minutes for the Q&A. If you have any question, please use the Q&A section of the Zoom where we can see it and we will answer all of them right away. If there will be any question that cannot be answered by this group of people right here, we will send it to you with the email that will also contain the QA sheet and the link for the recording as well. So without further ado, let me just quickly move to the introduction part for our presenters. So we have from Custom.MT, we have Elena Margulo, who is the localization consultant there, and we have also Konstantin Dranch here, who is the co-founder of Custom.MT. From CJ International, we have the founder and memoQ Fest veteran as well, Jurek Cizelski, and from memoQ, let me introduce you Levente Bundik, who is one of our solution engineers. And Levente, with that word, let me just give the mic to you.
No pressure.
Thank you. So my welcoming words would be, memoQ's goal has always been providing premium quality within a secure environment with our solutions. And we are developing memoQ AGT with this in mind. We also found a partner with these same values in Custom.MT on the forefront of providing large language model-based translations through their services. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Konstantin.
Okay, so as the quick introductions go, today I will be animating the discussion. You can see that we already started on that point. And ladies and gentlemen in the chat, I see you're writing where you come from, but since you are not all introduced to each other, I encourage you to also say if you're a translator, translation agency, working inside in-house translation team, and if you're working on any GenAI projects at the moment, this will help you meet each other and potentially make friends while we speak. Well, I think, Levente, you already introduced me, and Ben, so you've introduced me. I run Custom.MT, which is a small AI company focused on bringing the latest language models implemented into localization teams around the world. We have interesting projects, some interesting software that you'll see today. And the webinar will have an overview of two products. One would be a overview of how Custom.MT brings OpenAI to memoQ, how you can use the models to give it your own style, your own tone of voice, really control it for you to get the language just right. And the second part would be AGT, built-in functionality with OpenAI inside memoQ, which allows you to have translations closer to your translation memory, more accurate. And Jurek is a big specialist in this. I know, Jurek, you've been hired by people, and you've been working on a research project to really check it out, not just, try it out, but go in depth and compare to what is out there in the market. So you're the best person to cover that. Elena will cover the OpenAI integration, how you can translate with OpenAI, and Jurek will cover AGT. And Levente, you will show AGT if unless I'm mistaken. Perfect. Let's begin. Jurek, Elena, why don't you say a few words about you, because I haven't introduced you, but we're already in the middle of discussion.
Okay, shall I go next? So hello, everyone, and thank you, memoQ team, for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it. I actually have a couple of responsibilities within the language services industry. First of all, I'm the CTO for Yamagata Europe. We are a mid-sized LSP based in Ghent in Belgium. And I'm also the co-founder and the owner of my own company, CJ International. And under the umbrella of my own company, we provide technology consulting, localization engineering, and market research. Thank you very much.
So I close the introductions at this point. I'm localization consultant in Custom.MT, which means I am anything that comes to mind, from project management to, I don't know, solution engineer, some prompt engineering, some whatever comes next.
Today it's been data, right? We've been working on the data labeling for...
Today's been data labeling, tomorrow, who knows? But this is the fun of it. So a lot of things to do and AI in the mix.
So no twist today. Okay, no twist. All right, let's jump straight through to this. Jurek, you and I, we've been tracking the progress of different TMS and GenAI systems on the market, especially memoQ. You've been, I know you're in love with memoQ, so who isn't? Why don't you start a little bit by saying how can a localization team, a translation team, or a translator use, what are the different use cases for a person in language to use GenAI? How is it coming now to the industry?
Okay, so first of all, when I think of GenAI, I don't think of it as something that will revolutionize everything that we do, and it will make our processes completely different than they are today. But I do believe that they enable us to smoothen certain tasks that are typically, very time consuming and very cumbersome, and therefore very expensive in the localization workflow, in the localization supply chain. Think about terminology extraction, quality checks, you name it. I think that's where GenAI can play a very important role. On a higher level, there are two big use cases that are breaking through, and I would like to limit my comment to two use cases because I have a couple of arguments to prove that they are actually becoming use cases. The first one is actually not centered around translation or not centered directly around translation. It's centered around copywriting, more specifically multilingual copywriting. So apparently multilingual copywriting is where the money is flowing in the field of GenAI. And all of a sudden we see pure translation technology providers like DeepL, for example, releasing copywriting apps, and AI writing assistants. So that is a pretty strong statement. And maybe another example, there's this company called Writer Inc. They used to be a TMS called Cordoba. They raised a big bag of money, $100 million to be precise, to further develop their LLM text generation platform. So multilingual copywriting, check, business is being done, money is flowing there. The next big use case is undoubtedly translation, right? So LLMs are, let's say, presenting themselves as a more flexible, a smoother alternative to traditional neural machine translation, especially in the field of customization, because I think we can all agree that customizing a machine translation model is not exactly an easy task. It's pretty cumbersome. You need to have good data sets. You need to clean them. You need to check them. And then you need to run the actual training process, which takes a lot of time. And then it goes wrong, right? It still doesn't perform as expected. And what do? Do you repeat the entire process? Not exactly. You're not excited about that. That's where large language models step in, because they can adapt to all kinds of resources, including translation memories, including glossaries, including style guides and other instructions, which is what we will be covering today. And we're also seeing clear signs of this. We're seeing that the industry is adopting large language models as the potential new default engine for translation, for automated translation. Think about IBM, who recently deprecated their neural machine translation service, Watson. They're now encouraging users to go for the Watson X large language models. Think about memoQ is who's rolling out AGT. Think about Google, who partnered up with Custom.MT. By the way, Konstantin, you probably want to say something about that. To test and deploy their adaptive machine translation solution. And there are many more arguments. So I think that's the main point. LLMs are breaking through in the field of automated translation. That's it.
Excellent. We can probably show a little later the use case map that we make together, and also how the maturity in GenAI comes to TMS. Let's maybe give Levente a chance to cover the journey of memoQ. Like GenAI is already more than a year old in terms of when it exploded and became a thing that everybody must do. There's no wiggling out of the situation if you're not doing GenAI these days. And how can you even be in business? Levente, why don't you give us a few pointers at how this arrived at memoQ and how you are approaching this kind of technology wave?
So memoQ AGT came to be when one of our founders, Mr. Ugrai, thought about a way of utilizing large language models and what would be the best way. And it came to be that we already have all of this data within memoQ in the forms of translation memories, turn bases. Our very own LiveDocs solution is also used by memoQ AGT. So, and then we started working out the kinks and started development on memoQ AGT. And it's still ongoing, of course. So the current phase that people are testing now is a development phase, but we will be constantly improving, adding new features to memoQ AGT.
And that's probably not the only GenAI-enabled feature that you're working on, right? I see that you are hesitant, so maybe not everything that is going on you can talk about, but perhaps you can give us some hints.
So this is the only GenAI feature that is actually using large language models. And of course, we are partnering up with you guys at Custom.MT to provide even further options for our users.
Okay, we'll take this for an answer. Perfect. I think it's enough with the theory, Yurik. Do you want to discuss the maturity model now or perhaps later? Perhaps we can leave it for more theory for after we've demonstrated the product. What do you think?
Agreed. Let's go for demos first.
Okay, then Elena, prego. We have this dynamic. Why don't you start the practical part by showing what we can do to make GenAI obey our commands and behave like a well brought up person.
Sure. So let me share my screen so that everybody can actually see. Somebody hints whether, okay. Somebody's nodding, so I'm taking that as a yes. So first I would start by showing you our platform very quickly, just to give you an idea of what we do. What we do is basically we connect a lot of different AI products, starting from machine translation with the stock engines like DeepL and Google and whatever else. And among the stock models, we can also connect OpenAI, GPT 3.5 and GPT4. These are the ones that I'm gonna show you today. So once you have chosen the stock model that you want to use, you create some templates depending on the demo effect. So you know the demo effect, when you run a demo, nothing works. Everything that was working perfectly 1 second before, it's not working. So give it a second. Haha.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Just wanted to play a game on you. It always does.
Yes. So again, we have decided that we want to use GenAI, so OpenAI GPT-4 or GPT 3.5. What we do is we create a template. The template with OpenAI GPT it's very simple. It looks like this. So you give it a name, in this case, I have already done it. You select a domain or any domain. This is not very important, but you select the source and target language. So the basic prompt, translate language A into language B, is already hard-coded into the template. You don't need to rewrite that part. You choose the OpenAI, either 4 or 3.5. We're going to go with 4 just to be sure.
Why are you going with 4?
It's faster. It's
No,
faster,
I think
and
4
it's
is slower, no?
What?
4 is typically a slower model.
Actually, it's quite fast. It works quite well, and it gets more money out of your pocket. So why not?
Okay, no, I'm paying, so why?
Yeah. So we can use the best one this time. After you have created the basic don't interrupt, it gets me messed up. Once you have created the basic structure for the template, you get the prompt engineering part where you can write your own prompts to define the way you want the machine to behave. Just to show you the difference, we are going to leave it empty. In this case, we're going to leave all the default settings and see what happens. So in memoQ, you will install a plugin and create, let's see this one, for instance, and create a project. In the project, you can set the machine translation in the settings. Within the machine translation settings, voila, you get the list of all the templates that you have created. In this case, it's a project that is English into Italian, so you'll have English into Italian, and you're gonna go and choose the right template that you have created. The promptless is the one that we have seen with the default settings. So we choose the default settings, promptless, and let's see what happens. Give it 1 second. Aha. This is what happens. So in the translation results box, where you also have the translation memory results, you also get the machine translation. In this case, I did not have a translation memory, so you only see the machine, the GenAI translation. And as you see, it works. It has inserted the translation, but as any machine translation would, it has translated English into Italian. So English is a genderless language into a gender-full language. The doctor is always a male, il dottore, and the nurse is always a female, l'infermiera, in both cases. Il medico e l'infermiera, so again, il medico and female infermiera. What we can do with GenAI that we could not do with the traditional machine translation is that we can tell it to actually make it more inclusive or make it feminine. So what we do is we create another, we either modify the one that we have, or we create another template that I have to find now. This one. So let's move it to OpenAI 4, voila. And in a part of the prompt engineering section, you tell it what you want it to do. In this case, for instance, translate a doctor in the female form. And just to test if it gets the glossary right, translate patient as cane e gatto, which is dog and cat, for some reason. I don't know why. We could make it anything.
Is that a reference to your cat, Elena?
No, but we can make it a reference to my personal cat if you want, as, let's see, Lexi, which is the name of my cat in this case.
Wow.
We increase, the temperature. The temperature is how creative the model can get. The lower the temperature, the more word to word it will translate. The higher the temperature, the more creative it will be, but you could also get some hallucination in the mix. So something that has absolutely no sense in the sentence. We save the prompt, and in memoQ, we close this. In the machine translation settings of the project, we go change. I don't know why it always open in the wrong window.
I'm excited to see because it can change the patient to Roxy. Maybe not. So
maybe not.
We don't know ahead of time. It's not pre-recorded. It's live.
So English into Italian, so genderless to gender. We choose the right template, so the one where we got the prompt. Okay. Let's see what happens in the new translation. Ha 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 ha, worked. So if I insert the new one, la dottoressa, which is the female form of the doctor, asked the nurse to get Rexy.
Ta-da!
So my cat is being fetched. Let's see, it should work for all the actual, for all the segments. It takes a moment. Okay, it's not working.
Compared to normal machine translation, this GenAI is slower.
So
But
this
very flexible.
very flexible. So it can be customized on the flight. It can be customized saying this word should be translated as that word, as we did in this case, but it can also be changed in the style that you want to use. For instance, let's take another example. This time it's Italian into English. Maybe. Okay. Let's take this one. So Italian into English. Let's just check the settings quickly. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, give Elena your appreciation and show her if you like the way the model can be manipulated to make a dottoressa out of il dottore.
So in this case, we have English into Italian. We have, no, sorry, Italian into English. We get the promptless, so the same as before, without any prompt, with the default settings. And this is what we get. This is a very short story that ChatGPT made up. So don't take it out on me. This is not my fault. So a quiet town, there's a clock master there that going through time and comes back. It's kind of easy language, both in Italian and English, but it's very sentence by sentence, so no particular flair here. If we create another template though, which should be, voila, this one, the one that I called Shakespeare, and the prompt is translate in the style of Shakespeare. So not and with a very high temperature in this case, but not very detailed as a prompt. So sorry, the switching from one prompt to the other is not very, very quick during a demo, especially if it always opens.
Quick, Elena. I mean, you're doing all the configuration steps. In reality, a translator will only need it once.
Yes. This is just because I'm switching from one template, so from one prompt to the other. You usually have one or two for project. So we decided that we want it translated like Shakespeare would. So Shakespeare, reopen the translation. In yonder peaceful town, an elderly clockmaker didst uncover. I would really love to have an English person reading this sometimes in one of the future demo that I will do, but for the moment you have to go with me reading this. I will do, next time I will do Italian, so translate it as an Italian would translate. So it's...
You can hear la musica.
Yeah, so with the southern accent with all the endings. So in this in this example again, so we customized on the flight without giving much information to the model. We have recently seen that very short prompts give let's say as good results as long prompts, but they consume less characters sometimes. So sometimes you would need to start from short prompts and then give it more information if you want it even more customized. But even with very short prompts, this is what you can do. This could wrap up my demo, or we can go on.
For the purposes of time, let's do one or two questions to you from the QA, and then move on to Levente. And Jurek, why don't you control which questions we ask Elena?
Sure, let me have a look.
You're surprisingly silent. A lot on your mind.
I have so much to say about this, so please don't get me started because I won't stop.
I'm gonna get you started.
I do have a question for Elena. Elena, can you specify custom term bases when setting up an engine?
Yes, it can be done. It can be done in two ways. If it's just a couple of words that you want to do, you can insert it directly in the prompt, as we did with my cat, with Rexy. If not, there's an option. Let me get one. There's an option. What's happening here to upload a glossary, which is a very simple glossary. You have the source language to target language with all your terms. What we do is we use this adaptive glossary function, usually with GPT, especially with GPT4. It basically searches your glossary before sending the translation to the LLM, so that it doesn't send like 1,000 words and then the LLMs has to choose. It already sends the one that are important for your translation or present in your translation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We have a second question. We have a comment and a question. The question is, why can it not be linked to the term base in memoQ? And Levente will give the answer to that question when demoing memoQ AGT. Obviously, and there was an interesting comment by Ray saying that the real-time power to control the style and terminology is amazing. That is obviously true. It is very important to note that what Elena showed is obviously beyond the reach, beyond the capabilities of traditional machine translation services. You cannot achieve this using traditional MT glossaries. You cannot achieve this by training your models on bilingual data. It's a lot stronger than that. It's more flexible. And the interesting thing about this, and I love the Shakespeare example, is that it actually opens doors towards more automated translation for more localization disciplines. Think about marketing, for example. The language services industry has this assumption that machine translation, automated translation doesn't work for marketing content. Through LLMs, through injecting style guides and other resources, we can actually debunk this assumption and assume that it might work for marketing content, even for transcreation, maybe, who knows?
I can see there are many questions coming through the chat, but let's keep the other questions to the end, right? I can see, Jurek, you already got started. You feel the juice flowing. Save a bit of that for the discussion. Levente, how do I say please in Hungarian? I only know thank you.
Kérlek.
Kérlek. Okay.
Okay, so a moment. So sharing my screen. So now you should be able to see my screen. This is the project I prepared for the sake of this demo. But as Elena already showed the settings parts and all the metrics within the Custom.MT interface on the web, let me show you that when you have access to memoQ AGT, here you can see your current AGT usage. So here you can see that I have a few characters left and I used up a few as well. And important to note, just a little tip, is when you, as you can see, when you set up your API key, of course, you will have to set it up immediately or save it somewhere because you cannot change it, cannot check it again. So you can just recreate it, of course, anytime. So that's not an issue there. So let's go back to memoQ itself. So here you can see that I have a Hungarian document. My project is set up from Hungarian to English. So at least the result would be understandable for you. And setting up memoQ AGT is as easy as setting up any conventional machine translation service or as setting up Custom.MT. So going to settings and machine translation settings. Here you can see, I meant only the setting up within the project. So here you can see that I have this AGT machine translation setting profile here. You can see that, and important to note that memoQ AGT is currently only available in local projects as a local resource in memoQ. So here, clicking on the gear gives you, basically, this is the current You can verify your API key here, and then you are good to go. And now memoQ AGT is set up for this project. I have translation memories both in a reverse direction and a direct translation memory, and I also have a turn base prepared for this demo. So going back to translations, and opening up the translation document, here you can see that I do have a mix of exact and fuzzy matches, and also some terms are already within the project. So how I will go about this, I will go pre-translate the project first using any match from my translation memories. So now you can see that the project has been translated. I have logged everything that's 100% or more. So here you can see it's a mix of translated content. And my second action will be going with memoQ AGT. So translate with AGT gives you this interface. And here my scope is already decided. It's the whole document. In the second part of translate with AGT, you can set up an overwrite action. So when you are using memoQ AGT, you can actually overwrite existing fuzzy matches, and you can set the threshold. So any match that's below 85% will be overwritten by memoQ AGT. And moving on to the essence of memoQ AGT, domain adaptation. Here you can see that you can set the minimum match rate for TMs and live docs. For turn bases, we don't have such thing. All of your turn-based entries are used, which are relevant to the exact segment. So here I set the threshold for 70%. You can also set up the maximum number of translation results that memoQ AGT the prompt is sending. And here, of course, you can set this up to control character count. And we also have the option to not use AGT if there are less matches than this specified number. I will, of course, now be using it even if there are no matches at all. So clicking OK. Now memoQ AGT is running. You can see that
under the code. What's the magic that we're not seeing?
The magic is using the magic is currently GPT 3.5 using all the translation memory and turn-based entries from my project related to the specific segment, and the translation is actually provided by the large language model based on all of those resources. Of course, you can see here one of the current limitations in this phase of memoQ AGT, that there are some content filters within large language models that can be triggered. This means that one of my segments have not been translated. Of course, you can see here that all of these matches that were lower than 85 have been translated by memoQ AGT now. This was the segment, of course, that somehow triggered that content filter. We are already working on solutions to this exact case. And of course, you can see here that a 99% match wasn't overwritten, and all of these other matches were. And this concludes my demo. So I give the microphone back to Konstantin.
But tell us more a little bit what happened. The translation that you got using AGT is much closer to the style of the person who translated it before, right? So it's like
yes,
we
of course.
told the model in the previous example what to do in just a few words, and here memoQ has been leveraging the past works of the translator to customize the output, if I understand correctly.
Yes, exactly. So basically, memoQ AGT does real-time prompt engineering based on all the resources that you assign to your project. So all of the steps that you would manually do are here now done by memoQ AGT in the background.
Cool. Jurek, you've measured the business benefit of this. Did you take a look at what changes, right? In the first kind of scenario, we have direct control of the model. We tell it what to do. We can upload the glossary, but we do need to take some steps in order to customize the output. That gives us great creative control, which could be a blessing. Sometimes it could be a little bit of extra work. In the second scenario, we've seen that we configure. There's quite a few settings to click through with nuanced control. And then all of this configuration happens behind the scenes automatically. What's the impact? How does it change the work of a translator, of a person running the translation team?
I think memoQ's vision regarding AGT is to democratize customized machine translation. So basically, they want to offer instant customized machine translation to every localization professional in the supply chain, you know, from the freelance linguist to the million or billion-dollar enterprise, right? They have entered a very specific market, which is the adaptive machine translation market. It's a market which is not exactly densely populated. There are only a couple of names in there. Think about modern MT. I think everybody knows them. And I think you really have to mirror memoQ AGT against, for example, modern MT. So what is happening? The idea is that everything happens automatically. And by every segment that is sent to AGT, the model actually looks at the translation memory, looks at the fuzzy matches, looks at the term entries, and leverages them as context while producing the translation. So it's instant adaptation to existing linguistic context. Myself, I have tested it very thoroughly. I've done a very deep analysis of the feature. I tested it on very heavy marketing content. And I must say that it adapts properly to the content in the translation memory in the term basis. Some examples, even when you have, for example, two fuzzy matches for a given segment, like an 85% and a 75%, it will do very crazy things like using possessive pronouns in the translations when there are no possessive pronouns in the source, changing the tense and whatnot, the tense and whatnot. So it really works, and it's a matter of keeping your translation memories clean and tidy. That is, of course, very important for everyone who wants to make use of AGT, but it's important overall. I mean, you always need to make sure that your TMs and your TPs are clean and tidy, but it's actually a way of doing instant customized machine translation. You make sure that you have good translation memories, you make sure that you have good term bases, and everything will happen automatically. The translations produced by the engine will be adapted to the style, the tone of voice, the context, the terminology, etc., and so on in the available linguistic resources.
Wow, that's a strong kind of way to put it. Perfect. I see we have 20 minutes, so it's ample time, and many questions. Jurek, why don't you handle the questions and we do ping pong? One question to Elena, one question to Levente, so that there's a boy girl dynamic.
Okay. Okay, let me have a quick look. I have a good question for Levente. It's a very relevant question. Are there any plans to handle inline tags with AGT?
Of course, we are looking into this, as we already know by all the standard machine translation services, that there are different ways they are handling it, if they can. So of course we are looking into handling tags as well.
Elena, why don't you show how we complement memoQ's ability to handle tags? That would be, I think, a good extension of that that question. With your permission, Jurek.
Of course, of course.
Yes. So we do have, when you create your templates, so in the place where you decide which machine translation and or LLM to use, and where you then set your prompts, before the prompts, you have this additional processing filters that are exactly this. So ways to handle as much as possible tags. There are fewer of them. We have the HTML tag keeper that should allow to maintain the tags where they should be in the same format as they should be. We have tags encoder or remove tags. Remove tags, it means that technically exactly what it says. It removes the tags and sends only the text to the machine translation. So it should have a more fluent way of translating, though you will need to reinsert the tags afterwards. So there are a few of these that can be tested. The best way to know which one to use is to test it. So to try it out for your own content, for your own, tag structure, for your document, you can use them to handle whenever possible tags.
I think that's about answered it, right?
Yes, I think I'm going in circles now.
Let's push on, Jurek. We should do it rapid fire before people get discouraged from asking more questions.
Okay, I see very, very good questions. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, in these demos, Custom.MT and AGT complement each other, but also do different things, right? We mentioned it already. Custom.MT is basically where you have to take control and you need to author the prompts. That was another question, by the way. Do you need to author the prompts yourself? The answer is yes. Whereas in memoQ AGT, it's basically happening automatically. Let me
have a library of prompts by now, Jurek.
Okay, well,
there is a bank to draw from.
That's amazing. Maybe one more question for Levente, because there is interest in how AGT works. People are interested in what is happening at the interface, or what is happening between the large language model and the memoQ resources. So how does the model actually leverage the context from the linguistic resources? That's the question.
So how it works is basically memoQ AGT automatically engineers a prompt from the source text and the translation memory results and the turn-based results, of course. So all of the results that are actually sent, which is based on what you set up within the interface under domain adaptation, all of these create a prompt that is sent to the large language model, and this is done segment by segment. So each prompt is specifically based on that segment that you are translating.
In the
with
past,
AGT.
we translated a similar segment like this. Please translate with this context in mind this segment, and here is the glossary reference. So, pretty clear.
Okay, very good. Levente, one more for you, maybe. How about language coverage in memoQ AGT? And maybe the same question to the Custom.MT team. How about language coverage?
So for us, of course, it's already available what languages memoQ AGT currently work with. And of course, we are already working on improving this list of languages and also branching off, of course, because there are different language types with different scripts, for example. So we're already looking into that as well.
Okay. Custom.MT team, any limitations in terms of language coverage?
Language coverage is limited by the LLM for us. So whatever.
The same as memoQ.
Yes, it's connected to the memoQ, so not particularly.
The difference is we have the ability to give GPT-4, which can produce meaningful translations in more languages. It's more expensive, but Elena, you've tested for Zulu, you've tested for Khmer. So what do you say? Is it usable for Zulu or not?
I have no idea. I've tried to reading that and I had no idea. But the linguists that did actually understand what they were reading, they said it wasn't that bad. And actually 3.5 also performed pretty well for this kind of
I know that in particular, German and Spanish are languages which are really well covered by the OpenAI models, and often it beats DeepL, right? So the users of native speakers of these languages, they often prefer a large language model output because it's more fluent and it could be customized.
Wonderful. Shall we continue the conversation or do we take another question?
We have 4 more minutes maybe for questions. Let's cover whatever we can cover in the next 4 minutes.
Okay. I'm seeing a couple of questions saying, is there a way to do this? Is there a way to do that? Is there a way to maintain consistency between segments? I think it applies both to HGT and Custom.MT, but a lot depends on the prompting that happens in the background or not so in the background in the case of Custom.MT. Your prompts are very important. I used to think of prompt engineering as a somewhat overrated discipline, but I have to change my mind. It's very important. It's very crucial to create tailored prompts, and the impact of it will be immense. I don't know if the memoQ team or the Custom.MT team has anything to add to that comment.
No, let's go ahead. Let's cover more questions. I think we should prioritize the ones in the QA because the chat has scrolled away, but the QA has really good questions.
Okay, let's have a look. One for
I promised to the chat that we'll prioritize the QA.
okay, one for the Custom.MT team. Does your system leverage the data the user has in memoQ? So for the Custom.MT connector, does it leverage the data in memoQ?
You can export your glossary and put it in Custom.MT, but it doesn't directly access your translation memories. That is something you do with AGT. That's the differentiator.
So not directly. Question I've seen a couple of times. Can you set a character limit when using either services? Character limitations supported, yes or no?
Yes, if it's in the prompt, you say maximum X characters or X words.
Okay.
Levente, what about AGT? Is there some control?
Right now, there is no control. Of course, as AGT is still in development, we are investigating all of these. And of course, I can see that our production team is also here. So they are hearing the questions and listening as well.
Okay.
Okay. An interesting question about temperature. Does it make the LLM more likely to ignore the glossary and other reference materials instructions provided if you increase the temperature?
Good question, depending on various things, but technically yes, it sometimes goes off the rail, so it hallucinates. It creates translations or rewriting that has nothing to do with the source or with what you asked.
Okay. Okay, I have another one, an interesting one, less technical. What's your view on who should be responsible or would be responsible for the processes that Elena showed in the setup of the client side? Very good question. I'll go first. In my opinion, I think, well, with the whole advent of GenAI and LLMs, I think the importance of having localization engineers in your team is never been more important than nowadays. So my spontaneous answer is the localization engineer will be happy to play around with this and craft the necessary prompts.
I would say let's give the power to the linguist. A good linguist of 2024 knows prompt engineering, and they can craft the prompts and they can detect cultural nuances like il dottore, la dottoressa. So if you have a linguistic profile, this is a great way to enhance your skills.
Wonderful. One more.
Probably the last one.
Have a look. Question by David. Are there plans to offer a one payment service? So we pay for example, Elena's service that includes the MT and ChatGPT usage. There are no separate fixed costs for those. How about payments? How about the billing model?
It's already included. So,
okay.
It's streamlined, so you don't have to open many accounts.
Does the memoQ team already have insights regarding the billing model for the AGT service?
Not yet. It's in the works. So it's a work in progress. When we have anything, of course, we will publish it. So.
Okay.
All right. Great questions. If we missed your question, either spam it now in the chat so that we know that you really want it answered, or wait for us to check all the chat after the webinar and come back to you. Your choice. If it's a burning question, we'll accommodate. Jurek, I think we could use the last, well, first of all, thank you, Elena and Levente, for answering the rapid fire, sometimes difficult technical questions so gracefully. Well done. Let's cover the last kind of piece of this webinar, the last 9 minutes. What's going to happen? It's 1 year into GenAI. It's already tremendous development all around the world. Companies are going for it, and localization as well. We are the use case which AI engineers and big companies love to test generative AI on, and we are ready. And our tool set, including memoQ, is getting readier. Let's discuss what are the next things that we see in 2024 and beyond that will happen to us. How does our future with generative AI look like? Would you like to cover the matrix, or would you like to cover what's going to happen to different people, roles in our profession?
Let's maybe go for the matrix.
Okay, I'll share it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jurek and I have concocted a GenAI localization maturity model. Here we go.
Wonderful. So a bit of background maybe. So as mentioned by Konstantin, we are more than 1 year in the AI hype, and everyone is probably overwhelmed by everything that we're seeing, by everything that's happening, including me. Even though I'm an engineer and a tech guy, I'm really overwhelmed by everything that's happening. And we do realize that it's often difficult to really assess the usability of a certain feature. And today we've seen 2 features that are definitely usable because they are actually overcoming some of the traditional limitations in, for example, machine translation, out of context translation, style, tone of voice, terminology, you name it. Now we have answers to those problems, right? But we're seeing so many use cases, we're seeing so many new things that are being released, and it's often difficult to really assess whether something is useful or whether it's total crap, right? So we've basically put together a matrix that allows us to assess whether a feature or a company or a tool is GenAI ready, yes or no. So basically what we've done is we've made a list, a very comprehensive list of all the GenAI features that have been released in the last year and a half, right? And instead of just providing a score for all of these features, good, bad, 1 to 5, whatnot, we've actually created a matrix that allows us to rework the results into a maturity verdict. So we actually take the analysis, we take the results, and we say whether a tool or a company or a service or a solution is GenAI ready, yes or no. We've defined 5 levels of GenAI readiness. Level 1 is
pirating the model from its inventors. I have to say it. If we took it from the gods and brought it to the mortals, let it be so.
Yeah. Anyway, we have determined 5 levels of maturity. I'm not going to cover everything, but basically we go from very low, which means that a company has integrated GenAI, and that's it, right? Curiosity, teasing, but no real business impact. We go from level 1. We have level 2, we have level 3, which is where we're seeing that GenAI is being used in, the most traditional linguistic resources, including translation memories, including term bases, which is what we've seen today, which is causing some serious impact on our business. It's streamlining our workflows, it's accelerating our workflows, it allows to reduce edit distance by a certain percentage, etc., and so on. And we even jump to a level 5, which is GenAI first. And when we talk about GenAI first services, tools, solutions, we actually say that the solution has GenAI as the core technology, the main technology, and everything else is built around GenAI, whereas now we're still seeing the opposite, right? We have a tool, it has its components, and around those components we have GenAI. GenAI first is the opposite. First GenAI and everything else built around it. So this is something that is in the works. We are working on it. We want to make it more extensive, more comprehensive. We want to standardize it, and we want to give something to the industry to really assess the usability of GenAI features and everything that we're seeing in the news on social media. Konstantin, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I must apologize to you. David has rightfully pointed out to the chat that I'm interrupting you too often. I know you're used to it.
I'm used to it, don't worry.
We've been doing it so many times. Yeah, so the maturity of GenAI in TMS will improve. And with that, using it in our translation processes will be easier. So in the next year and a half, it's super duper important to learn prompt engineering and understand how it works. Then you will be in the know of all the new features that are coming out, and you'll be able to compare them. Like today, long presentations, detailed, interesting. It boils to very simple things, right? In one case, you can have creative control. In another case, you can have a laid-back attitude, and the model works for you, right? And then going to be many features, not only translation, but editing, LQA, terminology, all kinds of work that we do today is already being revamped using GenAI. So having those skills, understanding it, is important in the next couple of years for you to be in the know, to be in control of what's happening to you. Looking forward 3-4 years, probably it's all deeply integrated, and your work will become more productive, faster, easier, and the relationships between people will remain the same, right? So the LSPs will still try to optimize for better business. The buyers will be still pressed for deadlines and budgets, and the translators will still try to make a living in the changing market landscape, but all with GenAI and the hood. Okay, we're at the last 2 minutes. Jurek and I has been talking. Perhaps Elena and Levente, would you like to recap and say a few wrap-up words? Gentlemen first, says the Elena.
Yes, I'll close again.
Okay, so yeah, from our end, I really just want to emphasize and probably sound like a broken record, especially after Jurek already said all of these, but yeah, memoQ is really trying to utilize your already existing resources with AGT. And of course, right now we have a few configuration options there, but we will have more. So we do have a roadmap, we are improving, we are planning, we are investigating. And of course, we are waiting for your feedback, all of those who are out there testing memoQ AGT. So yeah, just let us know.
Okay, closing. There's not much left to say for the lady in the room, but lady, not really a lady, but any case. Yeah, so prompt engineering, so we didn't even know what it was like 1 year ago, me included. And now it's all over the place. So we will need to learn. So everybody will need to learn how to do it. On the happier side of the thing, it's not that hard. And when you actually have your own strategies, when you get the hang of it, it's really useful for you for making your job finally really easier and more enjoyable when possible. Because, well, from my point of view, it's actually fun when you start trying the prompting and seeing what comes out of the machine. So before getting to the Shakespeare part, that actually work with somehow Shakespearean words around, I got like 20 prompts in before it worked, but then it worked and it said, whoa, it's working. Nice. So
it's an exciting time and development.
yes.
Well, we're on the stroke of time. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you really enjoyed the show tonight. Today, if you're in the United States, let us know in the chat if we answered all your questions and if it was up to your expectations. With this, again, I thank you. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you to memoQ for hosting and organizing. We've had 180, even more people today joining us live, and more than 500 registered. The interest in GenAI stays strong, and I hope that today you learned something and you have carried away something for your future success in 2024. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.